someone, understanding that they're not only is preparing for shit important, that they're trying to convince them that there is an agenda to try to convince them otherwise. By a simple flow of logic. What I actually wrote was a lot better than what I said. But I think that's the most important thing. You can, through just a simple 3 steps of logic, you can see that the fact that people are unprepared for something as simple as a fucking hurricane, when people deal with hurricanes every fucking year, hurricane season, we have a fucking season for it. The simple fact that people refuse is, in contrast to the natural tendency to always want to look out for your best interest.
To be honest, how many times have we got hit directly by a hurricane? Not that many, man. Like 4 or 5 times in the last 10, 15 years. We usually don't get hit directly. We usually don't get our power taken out and our stoplights and all kinds of shit like the last
enough
one.
To do damage. I mean, and often enough that we consider it an issue. I mean, do you think it's just some scare bullshit that news brings out? Just some news.
No, I'm just saying people get comfortable in their lives and they think because the government saved them and came to their rescue during the last hurricane, and people warn them on the news about shit. They think that I'll just wait till they tell me on the news to prep, and then I'll just run to the store and buy a couple extra things of water, and that's what I'll do. So I think that's what people think. They think that prepping is just an easy thing that they can do and just run to the store and do in 5 minutes. But they don't know what real prepping is, and they don't know what real when shit hits the fan until they experience it. Many people live their whole complete lives without experiencing a real shit hits the fan situation because they're dependent. They're dependent on government. They're dependent.
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe I
underestimate
how blind some people are, man. I think that
you do, man.
People,
you have this hatred. You have this hatred for people.
It's not a hatred for people, man. It's
what you see.
It's a frustration.
You don't understand because you see it now. You think that these people just deserve what happens to them, and they don't. They already should know all of this.
No.
Well, they don't know all of this.
That's not how I feel. But no. Let's get this done. We can argue about it after we're done.
All right.
Finish it up.
Okay, I'm gonna go through.
Let's finish it.
All right, let's finish it. I'm gonna go through some of this stuff, and then I'm gonna jump down to prognostications. And I would like to. Let me see. Shit, I don't even know what the fuck. I'm just gonna start with long-term predictable ways, really quick. I'm gonna run through it really, really quick because I don't know when this shit shut off. I really don't know. And then,
and at the end, ask me if I don't have anything decent to say. I'll just say no. You covered everything. How's that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And then, but think about. I mean, you probably already thought about it, but your prognostications, because the ones that I listed here are all speculative prognostications that I think may happen in the future. But I'm not a fucking psychic, so you may be able to bring out some more scare tactics to show people that they need to be worried about this shit. That was my plan, to show people, listen, you need to prep. It's important because you need to be worried about this shit. Most people aren't worried about it. That's the last thing on their mind that they're worried about. That's the problem with all this. They're not worried about it, so why should they even spend much time thinking about it? But if we can make them worry about it, then I was not worried about it until I learned.
You got to convince them somehow that the state, that what they rely on is unreliable.
Yep. Well, the thing is, most people that are probably going to be watching this already have that inkling. They already have that distrust or hatred of the state. So that's the very first part. You get that, and then a lot of this other shit, makes a lot more sense. That was my point.
Okay.
Okay. So
Like I said, if I don't have anything decent to add, I'll just say, hey man, you covered everything. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with you. I
Yeah,
concur.
I'm just gonna go over it real quick. So,
Go ahead, man.
all right, 3, 2, 1, go. So some of the more long-term and predictable ways that the shit can hit the fan, that I believe are, you could have a currency collapse, financial panic, food and energy shortages, martial law, or foreign occupation. A lot of these things actually have happened in this country in the past. Most are kind of happening already, or are most likely will happen in the future. So I believe very strongly. I'll talk about this a little bit later about what I think is actually what we can expect in the future. But a lot of these things you definitely should be prepared for. Number one, I would say for long term is protect your assets. Protect your fucking assets. You need to use Bitcoin. We'll definitely have a show on that, on Bitcoin, but look into it. Precious metals, gold and silver, is good. Need a good thing to do if the shit really is a fan is to collect barter items, and by that I mean non-perishable items like alcohol, cigarettes, ammo, hygiene items, hygiene products. The reason why these are going to be valuable in any kind of shortage, financial problems, collapse, martial law situation, any of those situations, these are going to be very valuable, maybe even more valuable than any kind of cash or money that you could have. So not just for your own use, but you may want to just stock up some extra alcohol and some extra cigarettes and Everclear, even if you don't smoke or drink. Another thing is, of course, food and energy is huge. Things that you can do to prepare for that, as well as getting more freedom in the meantime, is go off-grid. Off-grid power, it's a lot easier than it used to be. Solar, wind power, hydropower, it's a lot cheaper and easier than it used to be. Then you're not reliant on the government-enabled monopolies of power, food, water that you have right now. Gardens is a huge one. Everybody in the Great Depression, they made it through it. Everybody made it through a lot easier because they had gardens. They actually had gardens in their backyard. It was so common. Nowadays, no one has fucking gardens. So that is a very important thing to have. The ability to produce your own food. Barter networks. You can have some barter networks with your neighbors. Shit, it could just be like, hey, your neighbor has chickens and eggs, and you trade lettuce with them. And, that's going to persist no matter what happens with the dollar or whatever. There's another thing called earth ships that is new now. A lot of hippies are all into this, but I think it's very important. Earth ship is basically a permaculture house that is built to sustain itself with energy, usually solar, food. They have gardens, built into it, all fish ponds, gardens, and basically to be self-sustainable with food and energy, and usually waste too. Waste, food, and energy is all like recycled, and this is all in the house. I think this is the future, but it's very important to get away from relying on these centralized either companies or government. Another thing, of course, you want to always have a bug out plan, bug out location, which is just means ways to escape local conditions whenever you need to. Okay, so let's move on to our prognostications for the shit hitting the fan. Now, my purpose for this is to scare you and convince you into prepping for some of these situations, because I think A lot of these situations are very likely to happen within your lifetime, probably within the next 10 to 15 years. So let me go ahead and tell you. I've been studying the financial system, economics, and
Hey,
government. Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You paused for a few minutes. Well, for like 30
Oh
seconds.
shit. Okay, let me start over
No,
the
but you were
prog.
still no, you were still live. Just start again. From I mean, you ended right at the what was the last
Bug out plan.
exactly. Yes.
Okay,
Just you were emphasizing the importance of having a plan.
okay.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1. So another thing, the last thing I want to talk about is prognostications for the shit hitting the fan. And my reason in talking about this is I want to convince you guys that a lot of this shit is probably going to happen in your lifetime, and you need to be prepared for it. I want to scare you into preparing for this shit. I've been studying economics, politics, history for more than a few years now, and these come straight out of that. You know, yes, they're prognostications, and don't take it as truth, but it may be 100 years, it may be whatever. But I think most of these things are going to happen within 10 to 15 years in this country. So let me start by describing some of this shit that I'm talking about. I think that we are going to have a collapse of the U.S. financial system as we know it within 10 to 15 years. This is basically baked into the system, and the system cannot sustain itself for much longer. It's going to collapse. There is a history of empires collapsing, especially once they get into using fiat currency. There is a lifespan of fiat currencies that we as a nation are actually we are overdue for collapse of our currency. And I think the only reason we've been able to sustain it is the global warfare system that we have.
Hey, can I interrupt for a minute, man?
Yeah.
The uh, the the fact that we're beyond that the lifespan of a fiat currency. You don't think a lot of people would take that as evidence that actually is that our way of doing it is functioning, that actually it's working, especially when they're constantly reminded that the economy is thriving, it's doing better.
Well,
You see what I'm saying?
not if they actually have ever uh, actually researched economics or monetary theory besides what they hear from the mainstream media. So my target is people that kind of know. They know what the Fed does with inflation. Um, they know that we're exponentially going in debt, just to sustain the government as it is. The government, it always keeps growing, and it does always collapse. So no, I don't think we're in a new paradigm, anything like that. No, the fiat currencies are as shitty and unstable as they have always been. The only reason why they've been the sick fucking game has been going on for so long, is because almost all the main nations around the world have been inflating their currency, their fiat currencies at almost the same rate. So it's like a fucking sick game. They're all playing inflate the currency just so the main currency, the dollar, and theirs as well, doesn't look like it's inflating and losing its value as quickly. So the citizens don't catch on to the sick game. So, but sooner or later, it goes faster and faster. You get to hyperinflation, and people start to catch on. I mean, your grandmother, if she put money in the bank 70 years ago, there's almost nothing left. It's worth almost, like 20% of what it was 70 years ago. Probably less than that, maybe 10% of what it was 70 years ago. And she might notice that, but she may not, because it's been 70 years. But if that inflation and that depreciation of the currency happens over maybe 10 years time or 5 years time or 1 year time, a lot more people are going to catch on to what the fuck is going on. And they are going to quickly, as you get into hyperinflation, you quickly, your standard of living in the middle class will drop, completely drop. So a lot more people will realize that. A lot more people will start waking up at that point. Now it's kind of like, there's a few more people waking up, but they're still able to borrow a lot of money, get into debt to sustain their lifestyles, and so it's still going on. I think that once people figure out what the fuck is going on with the dollar, there's going to be a lot of civil unrest. And I mean, you can look to history to see how this plays out. Places like the Soviet Union in the 80s, places like Argentina in the 90s, the Weimar Republic, I think that was the 20s or 30s. That was in Germany.
That was Rwanda experienced hyperinflation too. Rwanda.
Oh yeah. That was yeah.
I remember seeing had a.
No, that was Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, Zimbabwe. Yeah, that's
$50 million note.
Yeah. I want to buy one of those on eBay.
You can buy it for like $1.
Yeah. Like you can buy like a trillion Zimbabwe for like $1. But I think one of the most important analogies to our situation is going to be ancient Rome, because ancient Rome was so powerful for so long, such a dominant force in the world, that their collapse is probably going to be analogous to ours, because the United States has built up such a huge empire that I think it will probably kind of go like that. Now, the Roman Empire kind of collapsed over about 100 years, and I don't think that it would take the United States that long. I mean, you could say we started collapsing when the Federal Reserve took over and started depreciating the currency in 1913, so that would be 100 years. However, a lot of people would say the United States kept growing until, maybe like 60s, 70s, 80s, and then started collapsing. But I think because of the global economy, because of internet, just the speed of commerce, the collapse is going to be a lot more rapid. It's a lot more rapid. Yeah.
You think it's going to be more rapid?
Oh yeah. No, it's going to be a lot more rapid because of the speed of communication and commerce. That's what I believe.
I actually would think that would slow it down some. What was the other day? I saw something on the news that it was some exchange. I don't know if it was China, some market exchange that paid a ridiculous sum of money to upgrade the computer system that improved the transmission time, but like some fraction of a fucking second, so they can get transfers in as fast as possible before something else. I'm being very vague here because I don't remember the article that well. But the gist of it was that a lot of money was spent to improve a computer system that would process something faster than another computer system, but the amount of time that it processed it by, it was almost insignificant. The point that I'm trying to make is technology is flowing. I think, and I think that even though people talk about quantum computers and faster internets, I think that the more people talk shit about better shit, the more stagnant it's getting. It gets to a point where when people really want you to convince you of something, they talk more shit. So when you start hearing more shit about technology improving and computers getting faster, when you start hearing more buzz, as they say, I guess, I think that's an indication that things are getting stagnant, and I think that we've reached a point of stagnation in technology. I'm not saying completely. I know you have the idea, this idea of the singularity and everything, but we'll get there eventually. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's plateaus, right? Sometimes.
Yeah,
So if
I can see that, but
so if we
I
plateau right now in technologically, you can imagine that perhaps economically, and you don't think that naturally we could reach a point of just where war stays kind of constant, but not too much, not too little. The economy stays.
no,
I
no,
mean, just
absolutely
like a
not,
plateau.
absolutely not,
For a
absolutely not.
while.
Everything in history and everything in ancient history, everything in our country's
There's never
history.
been a period of just
No,
nothingness for 30 years.
no,
What?
no. I mean, it depends on what you mean by nothingness. I mean, statism has been constant, but
Well,
that's
nothing to
the
write
only
about.
thing.
I'm just saying.
There's always, I mean, there's always regime change. There's constant collapse, constant fucking collapse of regimes and governments, and debt. Debt collapses and currency collapses. Argentina itself has had their currency has collapsed like 5 times in the last 30 years, and almost every country has had a currency collapse within the last 50 years or
So,
so.
in the last 30 years, Argentina has seen its currency inflate to a point where it is unsustainable or something. What
Yeah,
do you mean collapse?
and
I don't understand.
well, it gets to a point where,
And you understand economics a lot better than I do, man. That's what I'm asking you. I
well,
have no idea.
it gets to the point. The problem is Argentina. When you're talking about Argentina, it's contained because not so much contained, but it's a smaller version of what's happening with the U.S. dollar. So if you look at what happened with Argentina, they you know they slowly were starting to inflate the currency. The government grew and grew. It kept inflating, and then all of a sudden, boom, hyperinflation, debt collapse. No one could get any loans. The whole economy collapsed. There was civil unrest.
But what was the solution the first time? Like,
The
I mean, do
solu-
you remember?
there's no solution. People get their shit jacked from them. People get all their savings and their wealth stolen from them. So basically, it's a transfer of wealth from the citizens to the elite, and it happens over and over. It's a cycle. So I'm not. There was no solution. There's no solution. The solution is to get rid of the fucking state and the central banks. That's a fucking in the fiat currency. That's the solution.
That's an
But
open.
they didn't do it. All they did is reset it. They keep resetting it. So I'm not
So
saying that won't happen.
so
That
it's
won't happen
reset
again.
by.
But your shit, but that doesn't matter because your shit's gonna get stolen. Your money's gonna get stolen. Your savings, what you can buy, your whole standard of living is gonna get stolen from you.
So you're saying, all right. So essentially, when the lower classes start to uh, get too comfortable, right? Too influential, whatever. The elite snatch everything away and reset the clock. Like, I mean, just they hit a reset button. The reset button is to reach into your pocket, take all your fucking money, and punch you in the face.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And sometimes it's not even, sometimes it's gradual. Like they try to do it gradually so people don't notice. Other times it happens like the Weimar Republic. Like they go from one day, your Deutschmark or whatever the hell it was could buy a shitload, and then a couple months later you could hardly buy anything with it, and people used it in their fireplaces to keep warm because they were so poor at that point, and it wasn't worth anything. But a lot of times what people do is like Mexico. I think Argentina did the same thing. I could be wrong, but I know Mexico for sure did it. They overnight, they close all the banks. They put capital controls down. They close all the banks, and then boom, They just they decide to devalue the currency by a certain percent. And they either do that or they issue a new currency. I think Mexico actually issued new currency, I believe in the 90s. And that made it so that there was a period of time you could turn in your money that you had for the new money. But it was at like a rate, like it devalued like 50% or something. And further, it devalued a lot more after the first couple weeks. So basically, it's what it is basically is a confiscation of wealth by the government elites.
But they keep using the
government
same
and the central bankers. That's what it is. It's a confiscation of wealth from the people.
No, but
and
dude,
it's happened over and over.
They use the same fucking tactics every time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different tactics they use, but yeah, pretty much that's what they do. Is the history of governments. They almost always grow. If they're allowed to grow, they grow until they collapse, and then if they print fiat currency, once they get into it, fiat currency, there's a certain lifetime in history, and they always collapse. Once they get into that shit, it happens.
All right, so let me ask you this though, man. If governments and central banks have that much control over money, which pretty much controls everything, right?
Yeah, money is. Money.
No,
let me just say this. I know, but let me just put that in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
Something that people don't even think about is money is 50% or more of every single transaction between two or more people. So when a single entity, a monopoly, a ruler, or a group of people or whoever control that money, they're basically controlling 50% or more of every transaction that every person makes in that certain country, or all countries, because all countries have fiat currency. So yeah, it's very profound when you think about it that way. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
All right, so no, I'm gonna forget about the question I was gonna ask. So, if you were gonna pay some dude named Joseph for some goods, I don't know, you're fucking buying crack, whatever, you're buying some kind of drug, and I were to intervene and I say, Jay, you need to fucking give me 50% of the transaction as a fee, right? What justification could I possibly give you to convince you that what I'm doing is okay, acceptable? You see what I'm saying? You get my question?
None. But somehow governments have convinced people that
my question is,
we're just doing it for your own good.
Give for this theft? What is it that convinces people that this is acceptable?
Well, a lot of times they blame it on banks. They'll blame it on certain ethnic groups. They will they'll blame it on speculators. You'll hear you hear the politicians say, "Oh, those fucking speculators," blah blah blah. They'll blame it on frequently, which probably will happen in the United States. We'll blame it on maybe China, Russia. I can definitely see that happening. Blame it on China and say China did this and that caused the dollar to fall. Or maybe what I think I think Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies are gonna take over a huge portion of the market, the fiat currency market. I think at some point, the U.S. government is going to come out and say, well, people that use Bitcoin are responsible. Bitcoin is responsible for this.
They're going to demonize. At some point, you're going to see them demonize Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, they're going to say first they're going to say terrorists used it in an attack. It's probably going to be a false flag attack. Then they're going to say that that if you use it at all, you are a financial terrorist. You're helping to bring down the dollar and steal from everyone. And then they're when the dollar collapses, they're gonna blame Bitcoin. Of course, they're not gonna blame they're not gonna blame the central bank. They're not gonna they'll always propaganda always points to other different things. So it can be a lot of different things. In history, it's been a minority. It's been certain companies. It's been rich people. Actually, that's probably the main thing that happens is that when this shit happens, they blame rich people, and then they go after rich people or they murder a bunch of rich people and government steals the rich people's money. So with the currency thing, they stole they stole dollars. They stole purchasing power from the middle class, and then they blame it on the rich class, and then they'll go and confiscate money from them because of it. Well, even during FDR's reign, when he actually confiscated gold. FDR confiscated gold because the U.S. dollar was hurting. It
was 1933.
Yes, exactly. He made an executive order to confiscate gold because the dollar was in default. The U.S. government dollar was in default. They could no longer back it by gold, like it was from its inception, backed by gold. They could no longer back it. So he basically went off of that, and then decided that, well, we're going to blame these gold people that are hoarding gold. So we need you to be patriotic, to help the nation, and turn in your gold, and we will buy your gold from you. And actually, it'll be illegal to hold your gold. You have to sell it to us. And then it went from I don't remember the numbers, but everyone sold their gold, and then as soon as everyone sold their gold, they like jacked up the price like 300% or something of gold after that. Yeah, so
they had a lot of fucking gold and a lot of value in gold now.
Yeah, it's motherfuckers, man. which is why I think, and I'm gonna have another show about this for sure, is I believe that cryptocurrencies are actually a step up from gold. They're actually better than gold. Maybe not in a perfect world. Maybe gold would be a little bit better, but in the world we live in right now, with fiat currencies, central governments, cryptocurrency is by far one of the best currencies there is. It's better than gold.
I'd say that I agree in a way, but gold still has the advantage of being something tangible, man. It's always nice to have something tangible you can fucking bury in the backyard. That's always an advantage.
It does, but you can do that with Bitcoin as well.
Well, what if you can't get to a fucking computer? What if you end up in a place where there is no electricity?
Well, that's going a little crazy now because
Well, no, I mean, even if you have gold, what if you end up in you can't access your gold? I mean, there's disadvantage to having gold, but it's also a disadvantage to having some type of currency that you can't physically fucking hold. There's got to be disadvantages to that too, man.
Well, I mean, you can hold a. I don't want to get into it too much, but
no,
you can hold but I definitely want to, as long as you're okay to hang out for the next couple questions here.
Yeah, fuck it, man. I gotta work tomorrow morning, but.
All right, so yeah, because we're almost done, but I'll go ahead and say, you can print out, like we did, you can print out a public address and a private key, and no one ever sees that. You could laminate it. You can put it in a bar of gold and bury it, and it will you'll be able to get, as long as you do at some point have electricity, and at some point the Bitcoin network is still alive.
I was gonna say that.
And
You're saying
then
a
you'll
lot
be
of
able
shit, but the network still has to exist.
yeah, but that, I mean, if you're talking about the whole internet goes down, the whole fucking internet goes down, the whole world, then
No,
that's some crazy shit right there, man.
the whole internet does not need to go down for somebody to come up with a technology to undermine uh, a, a system of computers, a small, very very tiny compared to the internet, a very tiny network of computers. If somebody, if somebody with the resources of like the CIA, the NSA, wanted to, in time, theoretically, I imagine, what I'm saying, they could come up with a way to either damage or at least compromise.
There,
But
there, there
you're just
are
saying the
there
fucking
are a couple there are a couple ways that they possibly could, and there are some explanations to why they wouldn't do that, and why Bitcoin's already too widespread to do that. But we can cover that in
right. I mean,
another time.
you're basically saying it's not at this point. It's not feasible. It's just the
Yeah,
damage has been done.
right now I would say, I mean, Bitcoin is still experimental. It's still in the experimental stage. So, you know, I would never tell anyone to put all their money in Bitcoin. Never. I don't put all my money in Bitcoin, and I think it's gonna. It may even go up to $1 million per Bitcoin, and that's in today's money, not even inflated fiat currency
Okay,
money.
that's not inflated. I was gonna
No,
say because
no, it's
by
gonna
that
go a
point, $1
lot.
million could buy you maybe a pair of shoes or something.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think if it catches on, if it takes over for some of the fiat currencies, it can go a lot higher than that.
Hey,
Especially
Jason,
with inflation.
hold
But
the thought for a minute, though, man. We're on a roll here, so just hold on, right?
yeah.
Take a
All right,
piss.
I'm gonna piss too.
All right, hey, I'm gonna try to talk to you with both earbuds on, but it sounds really
Okay.
weird when I can't hear my own voice. So, uh,
You should be able to hear your own voice.
barely. It's muffled.
You can't hear it through the earbuds? Buds?
No, I can hear it, but it sounds like I'm fucking sticking my fingers in my ear.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I'll try. We left off at Bitcoin, and it's
Oh, I think it's a terrific store of value. I think it's more than that. It's a speculative investment. I would never tell anyone to put all your money into Bitcoin, but I think you should have a decent amount in Bitcoin. I think it's here to stay, and it's something that can keep your money away from banks. It can keep your money away from inflation. It can keep your money away from confiscation by governments. It can keep your money away from thieves. And I think that the people who are smart enough to invest in Bitcoin, or even just to hold a little bit of Bitcoin, will be the people that will make it through the coming financial collapse with substantial wealth, whereas everyone else will be reduced to just poverty. That's my personal opinion.
no. So I mean, you're saying that no, you're not saying. You're warning
I'm
people
warning
to
people.
stay away
I'm
from
saying stay away from fiat currency.
banks.
Stay away
I
from
mean,
banks.
honestly, fiat currency and banks go hand in hand. It's
Yes.
the same shit, anyways. Um, it's a warning. It's saying you're pretty much saying, look, if if you trust these fuckers, they're gonna fuck you.
Yep. With Bitcoin, you can be your own bank. You can be your own central. Basically, the central bank is a uh, distributed network, decentralized network that no one really controls, and it's guaranteed to not have a. It's written in the code.
Did you just call it a bank? The
No. I said it's no. It takes over for banks.
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. It replaces. It makes banks. Bitcoin makes banks,
Obsolete.
central banks, and fiat currencies obsolete. That's the bottom line. Now, will
Wait, let me ask you
Bitcoin
this, though, man.
last? It may not, but the technology behind it is going to last. So
All right, so yeah,
yeah. You want to ask me something? You want to ask me something?
ask. I want to ask you something. Uh, so I mean, most of the people watching this show, man, most likely share. Oh, they already share a lot of our opinions, so I'm sure they share the opinion of the state and its use of force and its monopoly on force, right? That's
Yes,
probably universally understood, right?
probably most of them.
Why? Let me ask you this: why do you think that there hasn't been a more aggressive campaign against Bitcoin? It seems to be pretty mild, considering you're saying not only does it jeopardize banks, financial institutions, the judicial system. You didn't say this in this video, but the idea that the protocol can actually be applied to solving and resolving disputes between two parties or more, right? So not only does it jeopardize the most important system that controls us, the monetary system, banks. I was going to say something else, but I caught myself. uh, but it also threatens the judicial system, and to extension, I guess the government, the state. Why hasn't it been more aggressively like fucking take them down, man?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I think that government and is inherently bureaucratic and slow to act on certain things. So that, I mean, that's one thing that can explain it. They really don't understand it. They really don't understand what they've got there. There has been some papers recently written by the IMF, the Bank of England, some of the financial institutions in the U.S. have written some things about it. They've done some research on it lately, and they're very mixed on what they think about it. I don't think many people see, and I'm, you know, I don't think the elites and the bankers have any kind of foreknowledge or special prognostication abilities that will tell them what's going to happen. So, you know, they're powerful and they're smart, but the more powerful and the more institutionalized and the more central your power gets, more centralized your power gets, the less flexible you are, and the more vulnerable you are. So I don't discount that. I think that government's still in the beginning. They have tried to regulate it already. Many banks try to regulate it. In fact, Russia and China have actually almost banned it in their countries, and it's still being used in their countries, of course. But
yeah,
the
ban.
And they're actually, and the funny thing is, there's still exchanges running in the country, but they're trying to. They're like trying to see how it will work. They're kind of trying to ban it, and I've heard some people say that, especially China is expecting the U.S. dollar to collapse, and they want to be the new world currency. They want to be the new world reserve currency, the yuan.
Well, China right now is banking. They're waiting for that shit to happen.
So guess which country was the first one to ban Bitcoin? China.
All right, so check this out. If what you say is true, that China is betting on the U.S. dollar to fail at some point, then what China does should indicate the stability of the U.S. dollar. If we watch China closely, right? If what is, you know, if what they say is true, right? China's like betting on us to fucking fail. If they start making moves that indicate that they should at some point start making some moves that would indicate an imminent failure in our system, right?
Well, they've already
we use them as a guy. We use them as like a meter.
Oh yeah. And everyone that's interested in this should follow some of this shit. A good source is zerohedge.com. And
I can't understand half the shit they talk about, man.
They're always bearish. I mean, they've been talking about the collapse for years, but a lot of times they have very good stories on there, very good sources, and China has stopped buying our treasuries. So what has happened is, if China is not buying our treasuries, the Federal Reserve is having to buy our treasuries. They're having to step in and buy our treasuries.
Yeah, they're just propping it up then.
What that happens, they're just propping it up, and what happens is more and more dollars go into circulation. You know, they get tied up in short-term treasuries, but in long-term treasuries, but eventually all those dollars are going to be in the system. The U.S. government has for the past, I don't know, 50, 60 years, pretty much coerced other governments to use the U.S. dollar to buy oil. And other goods, to be the reserve currency. Well, other governments are starting to catch on to that the dollar is not going to last much longer, and they're making different arrangements. Iran has made another arrangement. That's why they're a target.
Didn't Gaddafi make a move on that?
Oh
And
yeah,
he tried
yeah,
to.
Gaddafi. Yep,
You see where he ended up, though, right?
Gaddafi decided that he was going to trade his oil, the oil in the
Yeah.
country, for gold, and yeah, that
So the
didn't
U.S.
go over
didn't,
too
yeah,
well.
really like that very much.
And Iraq, Saddam Hussein was talking shit about how he's going to stop using the dollar for oil in this country. So he got fucked up, you know. The problem is China and Russia are a little, they're a little more badass than just fucking
Yeah,
Iraq,
yeah, they're not Iraq, yeah.
and
Well,
Gaddafi.
it's funny that
So,
Saddam, wait, hold on a minute. It's funny that Saddam Hussein underestimated how much money the United States military steals from its people, right?
hmm.
The point where, you know, I don't mind getting into a fight now and then.
All right, you dropped off for a second there. You froze up.
Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
you froze up for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so did you.
So
My question to you was, no, it wasn't a question. I think it was more of a
you were talking
statement.
about Saddam Hussein, and then you just
Yeah, yeah. All right, so you get into a fight. You know you're gonna get your ass kicked, right? It seems like a fair fight. You don't provoke the person who you think is gonna be able to kick your ass any more than you have to, right? In other words, if you're about to get into a fight, you don't grab that dude's ass, right? You don't make another gesture to provoke more aggression towards you, right? In other words, maybe you take a beating. What gave Saddam the confidence? This is a question that bothers me. What gave Saddam the confidence? Did he just have balls like that? What gave Saddam the confidence to try to go behind the U.S.'s back? Gaddafi was the same way.
I think
Gaddafi was
I
not an idiot.
think
He must have
I think
known
they were I think it was they were used. I think
by
they
who.
were by the U.S.
Like, you think,
government. The
huh?
U.S. No. The U.S. government was propping up Saddam Hussein. They were propping up. I don't know about Gaddafi, but probably
Once Saddam Hussein decided to do something against the United States interest, he must have known what he was
they
doing.
turned on him. That's what always happens. Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden was a U.S. agent, CIA, Al Qaeda, Al Qaeda. That's what I like to call them. They were fighting in Afghanistan against the Soviets, but then they turned. So I think it's just basically that the U.S. government and U.S. government interests will fund these insurgents, they fund these dictators and these terrorists, and then at a time that's convenient to them, they use them as a scapegoat to attack a country or to attack a war or war and terror, or to maybe justify a false flag operation.
I think to a lot of people are starting to understand that uh, the conflicts that the United States gets involved in are don't necessarily match up with the justification used to start those conflicts. In other words, you know what I mean? Like, we lie. We fucking lie all the time. But more and more, it seems like our lies are getting more bold. Like, to a point where you don't even expect people to believe you, but you do expect them to follow you.
Oh yeah,
No, no,
I
no,
think
no, my point is, wait, my point is this. It, that's an indicator too. When when they stop giving a shit about public outcry or public approval of a war or something, of a military action or some form of aggression, when the people's word against some type of violent action is no longer enough to stop them from doing something. In the past, I guess, I don't know, man. I didn't live in the '70s during the Vietnam era, but there must have been a decent part of the population that voice their opinion about how they felt about the war. Vietnam was conscripted, right? They had people
Yep.
uh, forced into military service. There must have been an outcry, right? Now, this is a question I gotta ask, man. I just want your opinion on this. This is between me and you. I mean, you can put it on there if you want, but do you think that as people cry out for something not to happen, and the government ignores that cry, like, do you think that that's in the future, now in the present? Do you think that the cries are the same and the amount of ignoring happening is the same, or do you think that they simply ignore everything more? I'm trying to explain this, like, almost like they're getting more bold, more.
No, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that I think that is exactly what happens
It's
with.
indicating something, though, man.
Oh yeah, it's indicating a rise to totalitarianism.
A point of no return.
That's exactly what
So,
it. Yeah, it is, and I think it's almost to the point where it's inevitable that we're going to see that. Now, how powerful, how widespread, how it's going to affect your average person, I don't know. But I do know that they're getting very fucking bold. They're getting very, very fucking bold. By the day, they're getting bolder and bolder.
well, I mean, it's something as simple as this: Iraq. Nobody argues anymore that the pretext to go into Iraq was false. It was a complete lie. Weapons of fucking mass destruction, whatever the fuck that means. As a matter of fact, any weapon that can destroy something is a fucking weapon of fucking mass destruction. Destroys. Weapons destroy. That's all it is. But they found nothing, man, to match what they originally gave justification to invade Iraq. Like, they said that they were gonna have nuclear weapons, correct? Capable of destroying, X amount of fucking cities. I don't know. The justification was that they had weapons capable of destroying a lot of shit, and they needed to intervene in order to prevent those weapons from getting into the hands of who the fuck knows, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
and
accepts that to be true anymore, right? This is
right.
it's a joke now.
Yeah,
It makes
no
it to
one, no one
Saturday
even
Night.
cares. No one even looks back to it.
No,
And
that's what I'm saying. It makes it to Saturday Night Live where they make a joke about it. And now it's just a point of fucking. Now we have a point in time where we can just. Iraq is the best one because that happened in our lifetime. It's a point in fucking time where we can look back and say, look, it's a fucking blatant lie to get us to go to war, kill people, and have our soldiers killed, and not one fucking person can explain to us why. It was a lie. Why did you fucking lie? What was the real justification? And then what gets us beyond that point where we continue to is it that we're just so fucking afraid of our government? I think that's it, man. I think there's so many fucking people in this country who there's no way they don't see that fucking shit as
no,
fucking
no, no,
a
no.
lie.
They don't see it because they don't. It's not. It doesn't affect their lives. They're so dependent on just their regular lives. They don't see it. If you talk to the average person, I worked at the hospital the last 7 years. I talk to people about shit. I try not to because I get pissed off, but I talk to them about stuff, and a lot of them just they don't. All they see is what they see on the mainstream news, and which is not much, just a bunch of bullshit. They don't see all this stuff. They don't go looking on the internet for this stuff because it doesn't affect their lives. So I think things like this will not change. Things like this will not change until until the government starts to collapse. We have a financial collapse, and people's lives are actually changed. People's standards of living are actually lowered to the point where they're like, wait, hold on, what the fuck is going on here? And at that point, maybe they'll watch some of our videos or, educate themselves on the internet, hopefully.
Now, here's the thing, man. You're saying that hope. Your best hope is that the government implodes on itself, and in the meantime, we have to suffer through the injustice of the government, the state.
Yes. Yes.
We have to suffer through the injustice of the state and wait it out until it implodes on itself. All right, so a sinking ship, there's always going to be rats that jump off. and make it. That ain't a solution, man. The U.S. goes down, somebody else rises up. The same shit happens somewhere else again, right? This is just a
Well,
cycle.
yeah, it is, but you can, cycles always end at some point, you know.
No, you sure about
So,
that?
yeah,
You live long enough to fucking test that theory?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, man.
There's many different things you can think about. I personally, I don't think we will get enough people worried about liberty, worried about statism. I don't think we will get enough people until there is a huge collapse. So I kind of welcome the collapse
No, I
because
mean, and I actually agree with you. I because it's something at least, right? But I think you underestimate the number of people. And let me just put this out there, man. Just consider it as a possibility. The number of people. Let me say this first. The IRS. The IRS will fucking often will go after somebody that evades taxes. End up spending more money investigating somebody who's avoiding taxes than the amount of taxes that individual owes. Why do they do that? Fear. Their main tool is fear.
well that yeah
Right? One
they
of their
got to
main
keep
tools.
they got to keep the game going.
You
They got
agree?
to do
Now
fear,
you agree that one
and
of their main
because
tools is
who
fear.
cares? Because the bureaucrat that makes that decision isn't limited by they're not a normal business. They're
No,
not
I know.
limited
I'm
by
just saying.
their
But
their losses or their they do whatever the fuck they want because they're a fucking bureaucracy monopoly on this they're like criminals. They're fucking a criminal that
you're gonna
decides
convince me of that,
should
man.
I beat this motherfucker up or not? Oh yeah, I'm just gonna beat him up because I can.
So you agree that violence and fear is their main tool.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you say it all the time. You say that they have a monopoly on violence. Violence is fear. Everybody's fucking scared of violence. Nobody wants to get their fucking teeth knocked out, right?
yeah.
What
It
is
is
that
a lot. It is a
possibility?
lot. That is not their main tool though. I gotta say, you said it was their main tool. That's not their main tool. That is their last resort tool.
Well, okay. So I'm gonna ask you what maybe you can speculate to what the main tool is, but for now, let's just say it is one of their decent tools. It works. It's like a
Yeah.
fucking hammer. You want to break something. Maybe you want to take it apart, but you don't have the time. But you need to break it. But it's a tool nevertheless, right? And so
It is.
maybe, just maybe, hold on, enough fear is put into people that people psychologically repress the things they know to be true. I mean, people make jokes about this shit all the time. How many people you see around making jokes about the fact that weed, marijuana, pot, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's everyone understands. You know when you're around people, everybody understands how inert or how harmless it is compared to a number of other drugs. But the fact that it's illegal and the fact that people get arrested for it all the time, the injustice that's caused by the war on drugs, people understand it. People know it. But how come it's taking so long for progress to be made? You know what I mean?
Well,
For laws to be changed.
because that just shows you people are not in charge of the government. People think that they are in charge.
Yeah, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about
The
the
government.
relationship between
They're
people and
not.
the government. I'm talking about the people and the relationship between them and what they know. You're saying that people don't know. You're saying that people are completely oblivious to the shit that goes around them. I say they do know, and they repress that shit. They ignore it. They purposely. There's got to be a moment in time where
Of
somebody
course they do. Of course, because
is sitting in the room, they're sitting around high up drunk, having a
indoctrinated
thought.
their whole life. They've been indoctrinated their whole life to think that authority is necessary and good.
But the thought is there. It exists in their fucking head that what
Yes,
they
and
see is wrong.
you just need basically you need other people to voice their concerns and also and you just need things to happen that show them that because they may have the intuition that shit is wrong. A lot of people think shit is wrong with the country. I mean, Look at all the people that are against Obama. All those people, oh yeah, the mainstream media says they're racist Republicans or whatever. No, maybe a few, but most of them actually believe that most of the shit he does is wrong. But what are they gonna do? They're gonna vote in someone that does the same fucking thing. So they have the right intuition. Uh,
You froze up, man.